So, sportsmen, if you've been looking for something different to do this summer, hang in with me for the next half hour. I have two suggestions. One is to cruise shallow warm water lakes at night looking for gar, a weird fish that provides an interesting experience. My second suggestion is to rent a boat for a few hours and go fishing. We'll talk to Jimmy at Jimmy's Boat Livery near Metro Beach on Lake St. Clair about the advantages of renting fishing boats. It's one way you can become a more practical sportsman. I'm Fred Trost. You stay tuned. Pat Witherell is backing his customized John boat down the ramp at Wabassis Lake in Kent County.
There we go. He's free.
Dave Coster is Pat's fishing buddy who gets the boat set up for our bow fishing adventure. Now, this kind of fishing is best done at night under spotlights. Wabassis Lake has a pretty good ramp, all concrete, a big help in launching and loading a boat. Now, Pat Witherell won't bowfish much tonight himself. He'll tend the electric motor and the spotlight for Dave and I. Besides being quiet, electric motors are great for maneuvering around slowly in shallow water, and that's how we'll be stalking the fish. I suppose some bow fishermen have fancy equipment, but Pat and Dave use old bows with reels of line that tie to the heavy fiberglass arrows. The tips of the arrows have collapsible barbs so you can get the arrows out of the fish. This kind of fishing is actually more like hunting because you spot the fish with a spotlight, pull the boat alongside it as close as you can, and try to make an accurate shot. There are only a few species of fish that are legal to take with a bow during the spring season. One is a bowfin, commonly called a dogfish. That's what's hiding in the weeds here. Sometimes fish scoot off in the dark, but very often, especially with dogfish, they seem to bury their heads in the weeds, and maybe they think they're hiding. The black spot on the fish's tail is a giveaway that it's a dogfish. You'll be able to see the spot if you look carefully. Dogfish aren't popular because they eat a lot of game fish, and dogfish are not particularly good to eat, according to many people. This is one of the first fish we saw that evening.
Too little to shoot? Yeah. Unless you want to practice.
It's amazing what you can see at night in a weedy lake. Wabassis is extremely weedy. Now, that doesn't make it very good for swimming and boating, but it grows a lot of fish and holds a lot of snapping turtles. Now, this big snapper swam ahead of us for quite a distance. It's not legal to take turtles with a bow, only by trapping or grabbing by hand. Besides turtles and fish, you can see a lot of insects at night, too. The next bowfin I saw, I decided to draw an arrow on for my first shot. So I shoot low, right?
Yeah, it's deeper than you think there. Way too high.
Way too high? I shot so low? Gee, this is a challenge. What makes bow fishing such a challenge is the refraction of the images through the water. Now look how the arrow appears to change direction when it hits the water. The arrow doesn't change, our vision changes through the water. We miss and the fish scoots off. Way too high? I was waiting for you to say, whoa, good shot! What appears to be a good shot from above the water can miss the mark totally. Just look at the weeds under the surface, and they're not all that deep. They appear to shimmer and move, but they're not moving at all. The water is. Pat has a gar in the spotlight, but look how its body appears to wiggle. That's tricks played on our eyes by the water. That gar is actually holding steady, and I have to guess where it actually is.
You got him, Fred.
I got him. He's off and running.
He's off and running. He's running.
We don't want to get him in the electric motor, do we?
He's already around anyway.
Good shot. Yeah.
Well, I just needed a couple practice shots. That's all. Well, up until now, I've been hunting with the bow. Now comes the fishing part, pulling the gar back to the boat, hand over hand. Now, fish are cold-blooded critters, and their nervous systems are not highly developed. They don't feel what we feel.
Yeah.
Strange-looking thing. Oh boy, is it tough scales.
Oh, they're tough.
Wow.
Watch that mouth.
What'll it do with that mouth?
Oh, he just got to roll of teeth.
Pinch his head there a little bit and he'll open his mouth.
And you can't really open. Jeez, oh Pete! Well, I tell you,
Did you get that, man?
I'm glad I was sitting down. Oh boy!
Swing him back around.
No bass fisherman kids.
Let's see. As I recall, I was trying to look at the teeth. Well, I'll catch this one again.
They're tough when they take off.
Whoa.
They're hard to hold on
See
to.
his teeth.
Now, what do? I have renewed respect here. What are we going to do with this?
Throw them in this bone can.
Throw them in the bone can, but we got to get the arrow out.
Yeah, well, you'll have to rethread it. That's what you're going to have to do.
Well, if he does his little flip thing again, huh? Rethread the arrow.
Yeah, push the arrow in.
Pulling the
No,
arrow
you
back
have to go
through the
other
fish
way.
isn't difficult, but the gar's teeth were a concern. All right,
Hold that up, man.
here he is. Here he is.
Put head down first.
Head down first?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like this. I like this face. But you think it should go the other way? Boy, I'd sure like to open his mouth, but I don't dare, do I?
Push on the side of his head there and he'll probably
Wait.
open
I'll push on the side of his head. He might open his mouth.
eyeballs there a little bit, hold him up.
Kind of pops his. Will he open his mouth? How close do I get to? Well, I guess we'll have to look at his mouth another time. And we'll cut a shot in showing you what his mouth looks like another time when it's a little safer. Now, here's the mouth of a mounted gar that's on the wall at the Practical Sportsman Museum. The teeth are like needles, and they line the mouth on the top and the bottom from the tip of the nose to the throat. Okay, I'm going to put him in head first. That is the gar pike. And they are slimy. I'm going to wash my hands and we'll get back to work.
Well, I think you have to clean my boat too.
I think you're the man. You're the man, Dave.
Go for it, Dave.
You're the man.
Go for it, Dave.
Come on, Dave. Don't disappoint us, Dave.
Get up there now.
Being a shooter, cut bait. Take him, Dave. Take him. Lower. Right over him. Boy, am I glad to say that. Right over him. Way too high, Dave. Too high.
Motor's dragging again.
There you go, Dave. That's your shot.
Oh, take the shot, Dave.
Come on, he's only 10 feet down.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, let's go find a big one.
Got him, didn't you?
I don't think so. Yeah, it did.
You did.
Sure did.
See, Dave?
Nothing to it, guys. 10
Huh?
foot down.
Good man. Bring him in here. Show us his teeth.
Yeah, that's how you shoot him there.
That's a good shot. Oh, he's snapping his teeth.
Yeah.
Dave Coster knows the ropes. He's taken lots of gars. Of course, he's missed his share too, but everybody does. The barbs on the arrow fold back and the arrow can be pulled back through. Then into the rendering bucket it goes.
Take them off nice and easy.
Good job, Dave.
Here's a dramatic example of the light refraction through the water that makes things look like they're in a different place than they really are. The gar looks like a snake, moving and bending, but it's not. We have to guess where it really is. Right over it.
Reel back in real quick.
I tell you, that was way high.
Hurry, reel it in. Get over it, man.
Yeah, well, go ahead and take it, Dave. It's a riot to cruise around the lake at night with the spotlight. The fish don't take off like you think they would. This gar was not bothered by the light or by 3 fishermen shooting at it. Pat uses the electric motor to stay alongside the fish.
You guys both rippling. Way high again.
Way high. Come on, Dave. That shot was low, but the gar stayed in the light, swimming slowly as we retrieved our arrows. It's like it knew what bad shots we were on this evening.
Still there?
Yep, see him?
Man, that was way high, Dave.
I seen that one.
I tell you, it's amazing. Guy like me misses. It's just amazing, isn't it?
These are getting bigger.
Who would have guessed? Little shiner minnow. Look at that thing, is still alive. Or a perch. It's a perch. Look at he has a mouthful of weeds too.
Yeah, he really went flying after it, looks like.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? This was a fresh catch by a gar. I'd like to see how he swallows it. Yeah, I wonder when he's going to eat it. Yeah, and it must be tricky, manipulating a meal with a mouth like that. But we won't get a chance to watch this one. We did get a good up-close look at this gar, though. We could even see the needle-like teeth as it held the perch. We could see the fins moving on the perch as it struggled to get away. The gar even had weeds in its mouth. It must have been quite a pursuit. This was an interesting night of bow fishing. If you ever get a chance to handle a gar, watch their teeth. They're needle sharp. Here's a mounted gar we have on display in the museum. It's mounted with its mouth open, and you can see the hundreds of needle-like teeth that go all the way up and down its long beak. Now, this beak is not fleshy, it's bony, and it's nearly impossible to hook a gar with a traditional fish hook in the mouth. Now, a fish that has a fleshy mouth that's easy to hook is a catfish. I caught 2 big catfish last summer. I'll show you that adventure on August 19th, but here's one of the catfish I caught. Well, I have here the flathead catfish I caught last night, about a 17-pounder. It's been on the stringer on the dock all night. There he is. He's a big boy. I mean, I'll get down here in shallower water. There's his underside, smooth underside, and of course goes across the bottom, feeling with his barbels to feel and smell and taste for food with those things right there. Now I'll flip him over. See how he blends in color-wise with the bottom? Pretty neat. Now the skin on a catfish is real smooth. It's a little slippery, not really slimy, but well, yeah, it has slime on it, but I mean, it's real smooth skin. There's no scales. These fins right here, on a channel cat, they protrude, or on a bullhead, this dorsal fin protrudes, and you can cut yourself on it. Same thing with the pectoral fins here on the side. You can feel the stiff spine in there. It's cartilage, but it doesn't protrude, so these catfish can't hurt you. Of course, they have a huge mouth on them. You can see the size of that mouth. They don't have teeth. Well, they are teeth, I guess, but it's just like a abrasive sandpaper type of, well, I don't know, you can just look at it right there. All that is just like sandpaper with little sharp edges on it, on the top and the bottom. So they aren't really sharp teeth like a muskie or a pike. But boy, they can grab things. I mean, I've got my thumb cut up by doing what I'm doing right here. Oh. But they stay alive for a long time. This one is going to be mounted for the museum. About a 17-pounder. We're going to go have him weighed. Isn't this awesome? Flathead catfish. Master angler. Fishing is something you need water to do, and there are all kinds of ways to get around, over, and in the water. Fishing from the bank can be relaxing. If you're in the right spot, you can catch fish, and some pretty big fish at that. This is a low-budget way to fish. You can fish from a pier or dock that extends out into the water. The Great Lakes have a number of piers that are open to fishing. There's no charge to fish from them. Now, in the winter, you can actually walk on the water to fish anywhere in a lake. Walking is the most inexpensive way to get around. You can buy a pair of waders and get right into the water. Or you can use an inner tube or a more sophisticated float boat to maneuver around for not a great deal of money. Now, using a boat to fish is something else, though. Buying a boat can cost a chunk of change. There are a couple of ways to get around that. For $35, you can spend a half day on the Captain Nichols party boat off South Haven fishing for perch. That's a pretty cheap way to use a boat that size. At Saugatuck, a small group of fishermen can charter one of the best chance boats for a few $100s. Now, that's the cheapest way to use a $300,000 or $400,000 boat for a day of fishing. And there's one more way to fish from a boat if you don't own one. There are a few places in Michigan that rent small fishing boats by the hour or the day. For less than 1% of what it would cost to buy a small boat and motor, you can rent one for the day. On Lake St. Clair, I talked to Jimmy at Jimmy's Boat Livery to find out what goes on behind the scenes of a boat rental business.
Well, Jimmy, you've got a setup here with a little retail store. You sell fishing tackle. What does it say on the sign there? Pop, sub, snacks, beer, wine, gas, fishing supplies. So you got that, plus you have a rental business.
Correct.
Renting and leasing is supposed to be really a bear of a business.
Well,
not many people are in it.
I think the reason they're not in it is that it's a lot of upkeep, plus it's a lot of worry at times. We send folks out on a lake like Lake St. Clair that can get rough in a hurry. And you sit back here wondering if they're going to come back all right, and just make sure your equipment's in good shape. And dependable motors and so forth.
Isn't the insurance an arm and a leg?
Yeah, it's way too much. I think we'd say that about any type of insurance these days. But
So you got in this racket how long ago?
just 3.5 years ago.
Before that you did what?
Before that, I did many things. The last of which was to begin the Parks and Recreation here in Harrison as a volunteer for 7 years. Prior to that, I was in mental health, working with children as a therapeutic recreation person, and community recreation with the boys clubs in Detroit.
Well, for somebody who's interested in mental health, why would you go into small business, retail, and rentals?
Well, it has to do with fishing. And mental health and fishing kind of work hand in hand, not the one side of it
You're
keeping
open
it
6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's a 12-hour day right there.
8 p.m. So it's
Oh, it's to
14.
8 p.m.
Yes,
So that
sir.
sign out there wasn't.
Well, it says 8 p.m., but it's getting weathered.
Okay, it's what it's
so
8
am I.
p.m. That's 14 hours to start with.
Yeah.
And anybody who has a business knows that you spend more time than that.
That's right. And the funny thing, after 3.5 years, when I wake up in the morning, I can't wait to get back here. And I think
Why?
the reason is the people, the folks, the fishermen, the round table area here at the livery. It's
That's
a
where people can
gathering.
come and just sit and yak.
Yeah, kind of fish stories, philosophy, politics, whatever you name it. We discuss it there, and it's a good time.
Now, how many boats do you have for rent?
We have 18 now. We're working on number 19, which will be sort of an upgraded, fancy kind of boat with a 25-foot electric start, fish finder.
But most of these boats are what, 14 foot?
All of them are 14 foot with 6 to 9.9 horsepower
And basically you charge $40 for 6 hours?
for a boat and motor.
People complain about that price?
Occasionally.
And what do you tell them?
I'd say it costs you more to take a couple people to the show. Nothing against the theater, but...
Well, what does it basically cost? You got some new sea nymphs here.
Right.
What do they cost?
Retail around $1,500,
And then a motor?
and the motor is probably about the same.
So you got at least $3,000 to start with in these, and somebody can come for $40, pay no insurance,
Right.
no taxes, no upkeep, no over the winter maintenance,
Right.
no worry, and they can walk away from. Oh, they don't have to buy a trailer either.
No. Or the license plates. Or all
License
of that
plates,
stuff.
all that stuff, or
All
the
that
trailer
stuff.
hitch for the truck or the car,
Yep.
or maybe a different vehicle. So
Many of my customers have owned their own boats and remark about how little fishing they did once they bought their own. So they can, you've got all the worries, Jimmy. I just want to go fishing. And I leave it here, and you put it away and clean it, and it's nice and clean next time I come, and
Yeah.
I go fishing again.
your high-use fishermen, the ones that come here, your regular customers, how many days out of the summer will they rent a boat?
Well, we rent 8 of them to them, and they get their 9th boat free. We have folks working on their 3rd free boat, so sometimes 30 times in the
30
season.
times. Huh.
Which is a lot more, they said, that they did when they had their own, because
Yeah.
they were doing maintenance and upkeep.
Well, the unique thing about this, usually a boat livery, you think of a place with a bunch of docks, which is expensive in itself. All the boats sitting in the water. You don't have your boats in the water.
Right. Well, they're open boats, so if it rains overnight or just the dew from the morning, we have a hoist crane type situation that was designed by Tom Hannon, previous owner, and built, that puts the boat in the water and lifts it out. That way they're turned over each evening and the elements are out of them. They were relatively clean.
Well, the boats are all dry then when you start off?
Correct.
There's no bailing?
Not to speak of.
Yeah.
If it rains or you get some backwash over the whatever.
But how's the maintenance? How do people take care of these boats?
You mean as a rental people?
Yeah,
or
the rental
what?
people.
Well, as a person renting something, it's not theirs, so it does sometimes take abuse. We have folks who are very careful with them, but that varies from the folks that are in them. Fishermen are using worms and dirt, and the worms and dirt can't keep them off the bottom of the boat or the seat or the pants.
But what about the motors? Are they...
The motors are difficult to foul up, except for perhaps over-choking. That might flood them out, or someone not realizing that they need to set the throttle to start, etc. Simple things that sometimes can cause problems, but otherwise it's routine maintenance.
Of course, you get them in every day and you can look at them and keep them in
right.
good condition.
Correct, and that's, I think, key. There's only 4 or 5 boat and motor rentals left on the lake, and that's part of the reason why. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of worry, taken care of, and a lot of responsibility sending folks out. You want to make sure that motor's going to start.
But I tell you, what a service it is.
Yes.
It worries me that it's dwindled down to just a couple boat liveries.
Exactly.
How are people going to get into fishing if they can't try it out some way?
Exactly. I think many of the folks don't realize a place like this still exists because they figure it must be too costly. Cost is a factor, certainly, and we're trying to keep it down so it is also affordable. It's just such a pleasure to see the families that come out, the kids and the moms and the dads, for a day on the lake, because it's quality time. There's no television or video games or phones ringing. You're there with your kids in a 14-foot boat, and you're sharing an experience, an adventure every time, and that for me...
Yeah, but do they
keeps me
catch
going.
any fish anymore? Everybody thinks you can't catch fish anymore.
Well, sometimes that's the case. It's a little bit of knowledge, but, the basics are what count.
I tell you, this lake, I can't see how anybody could miss.
Yeah, it's chock full of fish, and a hook and a worm will do it. You don't need a lot of hoopla, but some of the TV programs would have you believe you need that. And
Not that we don't do hoopla.
I didn't say that.
Okay,
Some.
We're a no hoopla show,
Right.
and that's why we come here to Jimmy's.
But if you look around, as you come through this place, you'll always see some of the old timers who are just beaming when they can tell a youngster how to hook that line right, how to tie it right. And that's another unique thing here. I don't think you get that at your larger department stores and so forth that have pretty much taken over tackle. I can't buy tackle for what they sell it for. But that's the difference here. It's a personal...
Well, they can't rent boats.
No, they can't.
So you got a corner on that one.
Well, I got that one. You're right.
Jimmy's right. You cannot rent a boat at the new Bass Pro Shop or at Gander Mountain or Cabela's, Myers, Kmart, Walmart, or any of the big tackle stores. But getting out onto the water is the ball game for your bigger lakes, for sure. Renting a small boat for the day is a bargain if you can find a place to rent one. I'm not aware of any directory that's available that lists places to rent fishing boats in Michigan. I'd like to put one together and post it on our website. Please let me know of places that have fishing boats to rent to the public. A small boat can make a world of difference to your fishing success and the fun that you can have out on the water. And renting one for the day is the least expensive way to do it. If you want information about fishing boat rental rates and hours, you can call Jimmy at 810-468-6000. He's located in Harrison Township on Lake St. Clair, just south of Metro Beach. Now, bowfishing for gar is legal all year long on the Great Lakes, except for Little Bay de Noc, Lake St. Clair River, Detroit, and St. Mary's rivers. Inland non-trout waters are open until August 15th. The time to see gar is at night. Make sure you get outdoors this weekend. It's a great place to be. See you next week. You can become a member of the Practical Sportsman and receive the Practical Sportsman Digest, which contains information about many of the subjects you see on this show, for a free issue and information on how.
Little shiner minnow, look at that thing, is still alive. Or a perch. It's a perch. Look at he has a mouthful of weeds too.
Yeah, he really went flying after it, looks like.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
This was a fresh catch by a gar. I'd like to see how he swallows it.
Yeah, I wonder when he's going to eat it.
Yeah, it must be tricky, manipulating a meal with a mouth like that. But we won't get a chance to watch this one. We did get a good up-close look at this gar, though. We could even see the needle-like teeth as it held the perch. We could see the fins moving on the perch as it struggled to get away. The gar even had weeds in its mouth. It must have been quite a pursuit. This was an interesting night of bow fishing.